I would like to announce that I am just appointing Maulana Afthab Cassim as a wakil. In my absence, he can make you breathe.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد صلاة دائمة مقبولة تعدي بها أنها القول العظيم. نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الأمين المكين الكريم. ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. غوث أعظم ومن بيس أسامة مدده قبلة دي مدده تابع إيما مدده قادري من عرعي يا غوث أعظم زنم دم الشيخ أحمد رضا خان قطب عالم زنم سيدي يا مرشدي شاه مصطفى خان زنداباد مسلك سرکار اعلیٰ حضرت زنداباد. یا الہی مسلک احمد رضا خان زنداباد. حفظ ناموس رسالت کا جو ذمہ دار ہے سیدی یا مرشدی شاه مصطفى خان زنداباد. حامل فیض رضا مصطفى امداد کن. صلی اللہ علی النبی الأمی وآلہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم. صلاة وسلام علیک یا سیدی یا سندی یا حبیبی یا طبیبی یا رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم وعلى آلک واصحابک یا رحمت للعالمین. All praise is due to Almighty Allah. Durood and salams upon the most perfect, exalted and glorified of Allah's creation, Sayyiduna wa Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Peace, blessings and salutations upon the Anbiya Ikram, Ahl Bayt Athar, Sahaba Ikram, Khulafa Rashideen, Tabain, Tabain, Aimam Mujtahideen, Awliya Kamilin, and all those who follow the path until the last day. We thank Almighty Allah for His infinite mercy and through the wasila of Rasul Akram Nur Mujassam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for blessing us with the opportunity to congregate during these Mubarak nights of Rabiul Akhir Sharif to remember him and his beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and to pay tributes to the awliya Allah, especially to Imam al-Awliya Sarkar Awsipat radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And yahi hamara kaam hai. This is our duty, this is what we are supposed to do, is that we should be in the company of those who are the beloveds of Allah. When we say that be in the company of the pious, even though you may be alone, but because you have a connection to the pious, you are in the company of the pious. You may not be physically in front of them because you cannot reach them, or you are somewhere in another country where you cannot get to them. उन तक पहुंच नहीं सकते. मगर उनका साथ होने का मतलब ये नहीं कि उनके साथ उठना बैठना, ये भी है, but it also means to be connected to them. Sometimes people sit amongst the pious, but they are not with them. Sometimes it happens that people are sitting in the mahfil of the righteous people. They are sitting in the gathering of the pious. Some people spend years like that there, but they get nothing in the end. And you get some people who will never reach there, but they get everything. You get those who sat there and took even, and you get those who didn't manage to reach there but still took. Example for understanding: Abu Jahl walked past Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He saw Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He stood in front of Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who is more pious and the greatest personality in the dunya than Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam? But Abu Jahl got nothing, because even though he stood in front of Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he saw Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He saw Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam grow up. He saw Rasul Pak as a child. He saw Rasul Pak as a young man. He saw Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasul Pak made Elan-e-Nubuwwat. But Abu Jahl got nothing out of that. He got nothing out of that. But Hazrat Bilal Habashi radiyallahu anhu, who did not have even shoes on his feet at some times, who did not have proper clothes to wear on his body, but Hazrat Bilal Habashi got that maqam that jaye jab tak na ghulam khuld hai sab par haram. मिल्क है तो आपका तुम पे करोड़ों दुरूद. And then you saw him who didn't even manage to come to the court of Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he got that maqam, he got that fazilat, he got that excellence, that he did not even manage to come there. But he got that maqam that the beloved Rasul said to Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, and he said to Hazrat Sayyidina Mawla Ali that you must go out in search for him, and if you find him, ask him to make dua for you. Who was that person? Hazrat Uwais Karni. Subhanallah. Hazrat Uwais Karni radiallahu anhu. He didn't even manage to come in the darbar of Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but his ishq for Rasul Pak was what? It means that he was with Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No matter he was in Yemen, no matter he was far away, but his connection of his heart was with Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. So sometimes you get those who even come there, they stand, they see, they see everything with their eyes, but they are not accepting, they are not getting anything. Some are there who are coming there just for show, like Abdullah ibn Ubay the Munafiq. But then there is that person who comes there, and when the Rasul puts his Nazr-e-Karam on him, then he becomes Siddiq-e-Akbar, he becomes Farooq-e-Azam, he becomes Osman-e-Zun-Nurayn, he becomes Ali Sher-e-Khuda. Why? Because they came there for the sake and the pleasure of Allah and Allah's Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. So Allah is saying in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as-sadiqin. Hey iman walo, Allah said dar. Allah said daro aur sachcho ke saath ho. Fear Allah and keep the company of the pious. It means keep the company where you can be with them physically. But where you can't, keep your heart attached to them. Keep your deen attached to them. In other words, take your deen from these people. Take the understanding of your deen from these people. And you must remember, this is the reason, one of the reasons that we are making this 11 days of gathering Sharif. This is why we are remembering Sarkar-e-Ghaus Pak. This is why we are making the mahfil of Huzur-e-Ghaus Azam Jilani radiyallahu ta'ala an. We are doing all this for what is the reason? What is the maqsad of all this? The idea for this is to be with the pious, to be connected to the pious, to be connected to the awliya Allah. Why? Because the pious servants have told us कि सच्चों के साथ रहने में आदमी सच्चा हो जाता. That if you stay with the righteous, you will become righteous. If you stay with the righteous servants of Allah, you will become righteous. And people, even though you have weakness in you, people will say he is a righteous person because he sits in the bargah of Tajushariah, because he sits in the bargah of Muhaddis-e-Kabir, because he sits in the bargah of Qaid-e-Millat, because he sits in the bargah of the pious servants of Allah. The people will count you amongst the pious because they saw you amongst the pious. Because a man, it is clearly understood that if a man, as it was explained in the hadith, that if a man sits in the shop of a itar seller, of a perfumist, even though he does not put any perfume, but that fragrance of the perfume will emanate from him. And if he stands near the bhatti of a goldsmith, what will happen? If he stands by the furnace of a goldsmith, what will happen? That even though he may not be making the one that is taking out the gold and doing all this thing in the furnace, but uski badbu aur uski rang uski upar aa jayegi. He will get that smell of that furnace on his body. What we are saying, the reason that we make these mahfils, the idea of making these mahfils, the idea of coming together, whether we are one or they are 10, whether 1,000 or 10,000, the reason for this is to have a nisbat to the pious servants of Almighty Allah, to keep ourselves connected. Why? Allah is saying to us in the Holy Quran very clearly, وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Almighty Allah is telling us that keep the company of the pious, or sachcho ki saath ho. Keep the company of the pious. If you keep the company of the pious, their piety will rub onto you. And I said to you, it is not necessary that you physically be with them. Yes, you should be always with them where you can. Where you get the opportunity to be in the company of the pious, be in the company. But if you are far away, you can't reach them, you can't get them, then keep your heart with them. Keep your connection with them. Today, we are able to do these things because our parents connected us to the pious servants of Allah. Their parents connected them to the pious servants of Allah. When your father takes you to a mahfil and comes, when your parents bring you to the mahfil, our young children are sitting here. Don't think that, hey, this time I could have been sitting football. This time I could have been doing this other thing. All that is shaitani. That thing may look like a worldly benefit to you, but it is nuqsan. You should be pleased that my father held me by my hand and said, come, let's go sit in the mahfil of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani radiyallahu. Let's go sit in the mahfil of certain Budru. Let's go sit in the Milad Sharif. Why? By doing this, they are physically connecting you, you will get spiritually connected as well. So the maqsad of these mahfils is to be connected to the pious servants of Allah. And likewise, when you sit when you sit in the mahfil of the pious, when you go for the mahfils of the pious, like the awliya, like Sarkar Gawth Pak radiyallahu ta'ala an, you, as I said, that सच्चों के साथ रहने में आदमी सच्चा हो जाता है. He becomes clean, he becomes purified. Like a man who starts reading salah sincerely. What happens when he reads salah? Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. That the namaz purifies him, takes his bad habits away, takes his obscene habits away, takes his vulgar habits away. That's why we encourage you, stand on the musalla. People tell, my children are not listening, they're doing this. Put them on the musalla. Insha'Allah, they will change. Likewise, put them in the court of the pious servants of Allah. Put them in the mahfils of the pious servants of Allah. The shaitaniyat that is overwhelming the Muslim world today. Look at our Muslim children today. Look at how they have become so modern. Leave the children, look at the adults. And they want to run to all the dunyawi places. But you tell them there's mahfil at Gawth Pak, how many will come? What is the reason for it? Because the heart is more attracted to the dunya, to the colorfulness of the dunya. The heart is not attracted so much to the colorfulness of ruhaniya. Instead of being attracted to the colorfulness of ruhaniya, they want to run behind the colorfulness of the dunya. They don't realize the colorfulness of the dunya is a fake dye. Once the water runs over it, it will get washed away. And the colorfulness of ruhaniya is such a dye, is such a rang, it is such a color that no matter how much you pour anything over it, it will not come out, it will go and brighten your grave in the end. Samajh rahe? Understand what I'm trying to say? Okay? But on the other hand, you must remember, सच्चों के साथ बैठोगे तो लोग सच्चे समझेंगे. If you sit with pious people, people will regard you as pious, as a good man. But if you sit with deviants, if somebody sits with badmazhabs, jhuto or badmazhabon ke saath rehne mein, sit with liars, sit with badmazhabs, sit with wahhabis, sit with rafzis, sit with sulaikullis, people will count you amongst them. You said, no, I didn't go for that. I just wanted to see. The one who is making guna is gunagar. And the one who sent to see that tamasha is like him also. When you sit with the pious, you'll be counted among the sawab. When Allah's rahmat ki barish is falling there, you just went to see and be part of that mahfil without any knowing even. But the rahmat barish is falling on top of you there. And where the azab is falling upon them, you went for tamasha, the azab is falling on you also there. That is why they say, if you sit amongst the pious, some signs of piety will slowly come into you. Some color of goodness will come into you. And if you like example, a man who disrespects his parents, Allah forbid. Allah forbid. A man who disrespects his parents suddenly goes and starts sitting amongst people who kiss the feet of their parents, who kiss the hand and feet of their mother, who don't leave their house till their mother kiss their forehead, who don't do anything that will hurt their mother and father's feelings. Automatically, because he's in that kind of company, he will go and behave in that way with his mother afterwards. Why? Because of that company that he caught. He will behave in that way with his father afterwards. He'll see other people respecting the fathers. He'll say, no, this is how I'm supposed to respect my father. But if he sits with people who swear their fathers, who swear their mothers, no matter he's got a little bit goodness in him, that thing will get erased. It will go away. And he will start being disrespectful. That is why they tell you that if you sit in the company, the pious have told us, if you sit in the company of the pious, the piety will rub onto you. If you sit with bad mazhabs, sulh-kullis, all these khobasa, then that khobasat will even come into the person. Alhamdulillah, we are the people of Mustafa Jane Rahmat sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We are the people of Gawth Khaja Raza. We are the people of Tajushariah. We are the people of the awliya Allah. That is why we find a lot of pleasure in connecting and having nisbat and sitting in their mahfils, in sitting in their gatherings. You may not see the fuyuz and barakat. You and I may not see how the barakat is raining upon you when you go after this dunya in your cover. Then you will realize how that day's mahfil benefited me. How sitting in the memory and in the remembrance of Gawth Pak benefited me. How sacrificing my 1 hour sleep and my 1 hour of doing some other things that have no benefit to me and went and sat in the mahfil of the awliya Allah. This is how this has benefited me. You must remember one thing. While we're on the discussion, I was supposed to explain one share from today. Let's see if time permits and I come there. But there's some points I think that's very important. The discussion that we're having now is very important to know how lucky we are that we get the opportunity to sit in this mahfil. We get the opportunity, those throughout the world who are sitting in the true mahfils of the awliya Allah, they are very khush nasib. Whether they are sitting in the east or they are sitting in the west, they are very khush nasib. Because instead of guna, Allah has turned their heart towards goodness. People could be, any of us now could be doing some other khurafat. We could be doing something else. You can't come to a mahfil of the pious without the tawfiq of Allah. Allah gave you tawfiq. This is the mahfil of Sarkar-e Gawth Pak. How Gawth Pak's Gyarvi became so famous. How Gawth Pak's Gyarvi became so famous. Because some of the mashayikh and the scholars have written that on that eve of the 12th and the 11th, Gawth Pak on the eve of the 11th, he is to make the mawlud of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the urs of his murshid Abu Sa'id Mubarak al-Makhzumi radiyallahu anh. That is how this Mubarak day became so famous. That's how this Mubarak month became so famous. And it is the month of the Wisal of Sarkar-e Al-Azam, Jilani radiyallahu anh. We'll discuss that as we go there. But it must be understood that, ajab hal hai, subhanallah. That even if you look at the enemies, our enemies, the Wahhabis and all these people, the Bad Mazhabs, that when they look at you and they see us attached and making Gyarvi Sharif, these people are making Gyarvi Sharif, they're making Gyarvi Sharif, they're making Chatti Sharif of Haja Gharib Nawaz, they're making Satvi Sharif of Huzur Tajushariah, they're making Chaudhry Sharif of Hazrat Mufti Al-Azam radiyallahu ta'ala an. Then when they look at us, then these people, they say, hey, देखो ये 12वीं वाला, hey, ये 11वीं वाला, ये गरीब नवाज वाला, ये बरेली वाला, ये ताजुशरिया वाला. They think that they're mocking us. They're not mocking us. In reality, they're even having to accept that हम ही लोग सच्चे हैं. They're having to accept even by saying that these are the real people. These are the Muslims. 12वीं वाले यानी रसूल पाक वाले हैं ये तो गौस पाक वाले हैं, ये तो हजरत बिलाल वाले हैं, ये अबू बकर सिद्दीक वाले हैं. By them saying this, they are Bareli wale. Subhanallah, people today don't like to say Masih Bareli. Why I mustn't say? Whatever we got in this zamana and whatever barakat we have in the Ahl Sunnah is the blessing of Allah Hadrat Adimul Barakat radiyallahu ta'ala an. But that is a discussion which we all should know. Otherwise, kaise sunni maine hi samajhta in this zamana, if you're especially linked to an Indo-Pak continent and you do not know who is Ala Hadrat. I saw a very beautiful sticker in my days. I used to see it, I saw it, we made a copy of it here and put it in the masjids, etc. That tum sunni ho, Ala Hadrat ko nahi jante? Taajjub hai. You're a sunni and you don't know Ala Hadrat? Shocking. Why? The same Ala Hadrat taught you Mustafa Jane Rahmat pe lakho salam. The same Ala Hadrat taught you the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this zamana. The same Ala Hadrat it is. That is why we say, isn't it? Daladi qalb mein azmat Mustafa Sayyidi Ala Hadrat pe lakho salam. It is very important for us to understand that we remembering Sarkar-e Gawth Pak, we making this yad of Sarkar-e Gawth Pak, we paying tribute in the court of Sarkar-e Gawth Pak. You're not doing Gawth Pak any favor. By doing all this, we are not doing Gawth Pak any favor. This is the blessing of Gawth Pak that he put his Nazar-e-Karam on us. He put his Nazar-e-Karam on us and he called us into his mahfil to remember him. He called us into his mahfil to read and speak about him. Why? Because when you praise Sarkar-e Gawth Pak, you are accepted in the court of Allah and his beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. Sarkar-e Gawth Pak radiyallahu an, Allahu Akbar. Today the share that I'm going to choose, I talked a little bit about it some time back. Whilst I was traveling in other countries as well, and I'm going to touch on it tonight. Sarkar-e Ala Hadrat Azimul Barakat Imam Ahl Sunnat Ashya Imam Ahmad Raza Khan Fazl Barelvi radiyallahu anh, he beautifully says, he says in one of his kalams, he says, Subhanallah, he says, Jo wali qabl the. He says, Jo wali qabl the, ya baad hue ya honge. Jo wali qabl the, या बाद हुए या होंगे, सब अदब रखते हैं दिल में मेरे आका तेरा. What does he mean? I'm translating English for our youngsters. He said, the walis before and after you, Gawth Pak, the awliya before and after you, and those who will follow you successively. जो वली कब्ल थे या बाद हुए या होंगे, those walis before and after you, and those who will follow you successively, in their hearts, O my master, they all honor you with dignity. In their hearts, O my master, they all honor you with dignity. Sab adab rakhte hai dil mein mere aaka tera. Now, let me tell you. Only this one thing I'm going to tell you for start. Once I tell you this one, even if I don't tell you anything else, no problem. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam. Hazrat Khidr alayhi salam, or Khadir, according to some state views, Hazrat Khidr, which is common, and Khadir it was also said, Hazrat Sayyidina Khidr alayhi salatu wassalam says, as many awliya have passed, all the awliya that have passed, and those who will come until Qiyamah. Who is saying this? Hazrat Khidr alayhi salatu wasalam. All the awliya that have gone by, jitne wali guzar chuke, और जितने आने वाले होने वाले, as many awliya Allah who have passed, have gone by, and those who will come. How far? He says until Qayamat. And those who will come until Qayamat, Qayamat tak jo aane wale hai, all of them will honor and respect Sheikh Abdul Qadir. All of them will honor and respect Sheikh Abdul Qadir. Wah ala Hadrat Adimul Barkat. The words of Khidr alayhi salam, in the words of ala Hadrat, जो वली कबल थे या बाद हुए या होंगे, सब अदब रखते हैं दिल में मेरे आका तेरा. Now what more do I need to explain this couplet of ala Hadrat, except for the statement of Hadrat Khidr alayhi salatu wasalam. That word of Khidr alayhi salam, this is the beauty of the kalam of the awliya. This is the beauty of the kalam of the awliya Allah, that the pious servants of Almighty Allah, when they say something, when they say naat, when they say mankabat, when they say these beautiful kalams, qasidas, and all these qasaid, they don't say wah 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 wah, so everybody says, and everybody start emptying their pockets. They don't do it for that. They do it for the love of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They do it for the love of those pious servants, and whatever they say is reality. Look, Sarkare Hazrat Khaja Khidr alayhi salam is saying that all those awliya that have gone by, and all those who will come, every single one of them until Qayamat, all of them will honor and respect Sheikh Abdul Qadir. They will all respect Sarkar House Pak. And Allah Hazrat is saying, Jo bali qabl the ya baad hue ya honge, sab adab rakhte hai dil mein mere aaka tera. Now, if you go back and look at the works of the pious servants of Allah, you will understand that great mashayikh, like Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi radiallahu. I talked about this before. Today I'm giving a little bit repetition to explain this share. Hazrat Shaykh Sayyidina Junaid al-Baghdadi radiallahu. Who doesn't know Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi? Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi, let me tell you one thing quickly before we talk about what he said. A person famous, very famous waqia, a person went to visit Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi. I'm giving you the essence, just the gist of the waqia. He went to visit Hazrat Sayyidina Shaykh Junaid al-Baghdadi. He went, he stayed for a long time in the court of Junaid al-Baghdadi. He watched Junaid al-Baghdadi carefully, he ate with him, he saw everything. After staying for a very, very long time at his Mubarak residence, the person one day came and he said, Hazrat, give me ijazat, I want to leave now. Junaid al-Baghdadi said, okay, you stayed for so long, now you want to leave, you have my permission. But was there some special reason that you came? कोई खास काम के लिए आए थे, आपने अब तक बताया नहीं. इतने दिन रहने के बाद, after staying for so long, you didn't tell me why you came. You came so long and you stayed in my house with me. Definitely you wanted something, or needed something, or you just needed a place to stay. Example, why did you come? झिझकते हुए, trembling little bit, घबराते हुए. He said, Hazrat, I don't know what to tell you, but in reality, when I came to stay with you, to be with you, to be in your khidmat, I heard from so many people, Junaid is a very great wali. He's a great Sufi. I heard that he is so great, so I thought, let me come and stay with you and see some of your karamats. Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi asked him, so all this time that you stayed with me, how many karamats did you see? He said, Hazrat, I don't know how to tell you this, but I didn't see any karamats. I didn't see any karamats. Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi radiallahu anh said, did you see me acting against the Shariat?
Did you see me taking one step against the Shariat? He said, no. Did you see me do anything contrary to the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, no. He said, you saw me acting only upon the Sharia? Yes. You saw me acting as per the Sunnah? Yes. He said, then what greater karamat were you looking for? What greater karamat were you looking for? He said, I served you to this extent that when you are leaving and about to sit on your savari, I even walked you to your savari over here. So is this also not the Shariat and following the Sunnah of Rasul Pak? He began to weep. He fell at the feet of Sarkar Junaid Baghdadi radhiyallahu anhu. He said, I was looking for physical things like flying and doing this. He said, not what, like what Hazrat Bayezid Bustami radhiyallahu anhu said. People want to say, Rabia Basri had said once in the court of Hazrat Sayyidina Bayezid Bustami or some other time. What was it said? Say, what is it? They say, if he can fly, then he's a wali. Said, if that's the case, then even a fly flies. Even a fly flies. It's not about just flying and doing all these things. Yes, when they show their karamat, it is something else. But it doesn't mean that that is only the sign of a wali. It's a very important point to understand. So, Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi told him all this. Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi said, what did he say? Today people want to become, everybody want to become a Sufi. Sufi, everybody. Want to become a mystic, want to become this, want to be... Haven't put the first step in Shariat as yet. Not reading the namaz properly. Didn't learn how to make wuzu thoroughly. What did Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi say? He said, Be ilm Sufi, a person who tries to be a Sufi without knowledge, is the toy of shaitan. Shaitan maneuvers him in whichever direction he wants. Now that Junaid Baghdadi, that great personality like that, that Junaid Baghdadi, radiyallahu ta'ala an, who was drowned in the love of Hazrat Sayyidina Nasiruddin Sari Shakti radiyallahu ta'ala an. Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi radiyallahu an, he lived almost 2 centuries before Gawth Pak. Almost 200 years. Gawth Pak ke zamane se kareeb 200 saal pehle the. Before the time of Gawth Pak radiyallahu ta'ala an. And it is mentioned that one day he was in a state of muraqabah, in a deep spiritual rohani state. And while in the state with his eyes closed, he suddenly started to say, his foot is on my shoulder. His foot is on my shoulder. His foot is on my neck. He went on saying this. When he came out of this rohani state, his haal se jab wo bahar aaye, when he came out of the spiritual state, all those that were with his mahfil, all his murids and all his muhibbin that were sitting in the majlis, कहने लगे क्या है जुनैद बगदादी, ये क्या कहने लगे आप? What is this thing that you were starting to say? That his foot is on my shoulder, his foot is on my shoulder, or his foot is on my neck. What is this? Achanak, we never saw you doing this before. He said, while I was in the state of ruhaniyat, while I was in this deep spiritual state, connected in the court of my Creator Almighty Allah, while I was in this deep state, it was inspired upon my heart. That which is inspired upon the heart of a wali is called ilham. It was inspired upon my heart that there will be a pious man, a saintly personality, ek Allah ke mahboob banda hoga, who will be born close to the end of the 5th century, aur uska naam Abdul Qadir hoga. His name will be Abdul Qadir, and his title will be Muhyiddin, and he will be born in Jilan, and he will live in Baghdad, and one day on the command of Allah he will say, Qadami hadihi ala raqabati kulli waliyillah. This foot of mine is on the neck, on the shoulders of all the awliya Allah. And he said, while in my spiritual state, I saw his maqam, and these words were echoing inside me. So my zuban automatically started to say that his foot is on my shoulder. His foot is on my shoulder. His foot is on my shoulder, on my neck. Yani 200 saal pehle, Gawth Pak abhi paida bhi nahi hue. Gawth Pak had not even come in the dunya as yet. And Junaid Baghdadi 200 years before is saying that unke kadam mere gardan pe hai. Unke kadam mere gardan pe hai. That is why Ala Hazrat said, jo wali qabl the. 200 years before. जो वली कब्ल थे या बाद हुए या होगे सब अदब रखते हैं दिल में मेरे आका तेरा. This is the shan of Sarkar Gawth Azam Jilani radiallahu anh. 2 centuries before, Junaid Baghdadi radiallahu anh is foretelling the coming of Sarkar Gawth Azam radiallahu anh. He is not only foretelling it, he is telling it in the state of ruhaniyat. I saw this shan of Sarkar Gawth Pak, and it was told to me that his qadam will be on the gardan of all the awliya Allah. That is before the time of Sarkar Gawth Pak radiallahu ta'ala an. And Sayyidi Shaykh Abu Muhammad says that before Hazrat Sayyid Imam Hasan Askari radiallahu an left this dunya, he gave his jubba mubarak, his khirka mubarak to Hazrat Sayyiduna Maruf Karhi radiallahu an. And this jubba mubarak got passed down from Maruf Karhi in generations, until it reached Sarkar Gawth Pak radiallahu an. Because he said, pass it down. This is meant for one who will come by the name of Abdul Qadir. जो वली कबल थे या बाद हुए या होगे सब अदब रखते हैं दिल में मेरे आका तेरा. At the Mahfil of Gawth Pak, and I will discuss this as another topic inshallah. When Gawth Pak said, my foot is on the shoulders of all the awliya Allah, qadami hadihi ala raqabati kulli waliyillah. At that time Hazrat Sayyidina Ibn Ali bin Hajar Hiti radiallahu anhu Hayati was in the court of Sarkar Gawth Pak radiallahu anhu, and he physically took the foot of Gawth Pak and he put it on top of his gardan. And at that time Sarkar Huzur Muhaddis Kabir explains beautifully. He says that at that time Ali bin Hiti was definitely thinking that yes, he wasn't doing this out of pride to say that every wali every wali must take the foot of Gawth Pak on their shoulder. He took it saying that yes, whether I am a wali or not, Gawth Pak ki qadam le lege to wali ho jayenge. Whether I am not take the foot of Gawth Pak, you will reach that maqam. Even though he was amongst the pious servants of Allah, he was that personality that when he used to sit in the mahfil of Gawth Pak and Gawth Pak was lecturing, that during the lecture he could see Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his dream. This was Ali bin Hajar Hiti radiallahu anhu. And जो वली कब्ल थे या बाद हुए या होंगे. Huzur Mufti Azam Hind radiallahu anhu came centuries after Huzur Sayyidi Sarkar Gawth Azam radiallahu anhu, ages after Sarkar Gawth Pak. But Huzur Mufti Azam wrote in one sher. What did he say? ये दिल ये जिगर है, ये आंखें ये सर है, जहां चाहो रखो कदम Gawth Azam. Wherever you want, put your qadam o Gawth Pak radiallahu ta'ala an. He was not even in the dunya, but when he came, he said it. Why? Because this is what they were saying in Alam Arwah, even when Gawth Pak said that my foot is on the shoulders of all the walis. That is why Sarkar Khaja Garibun Nawaz in Khurasan, inside the mountain in the cave. But when he heard that, he said, oh Gawth Azam, not only on my neck, but on my head and my eyes also. So he wanted this maqam, he wanted this blessing from Sarkar Gawth Pak. He took the qadam of Gawth Pak. Sultanul Awliya made him Sultanul Hind. These are the barakat of those जो वली कब्ल थे या बाद हुए या होंगे सब अदब रखते हैं दिल मेरे आका तेरा. Lengthy discussion, but I'm going to stop here tonight. Brief for you to understand this beautiful share of Ala Hadrat Adimul Barakat. But the real manifestation of that share is the words of Hadrat Sayyidina Khidr alayhi salatu wasalam. That is what Ala Hadrat manifested in his couplet, and that is what is reality as we know, and I've told you now in very brief about the awliya Allah before, the awliya in the time of Gawth Pak, the awliya thereafter, and the awliya thereafter until Qiyamah will all accept and respect and honor the maqam of Sarkari Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani Baghdadi radiallahu anhu. And this is the haqq of the Ahl Sunnat wal Jama'at. This is our nasib, this is our haqq, this is our khush nasibi, that we have received the share of being amongst those who call themselves the Ushaq and the Murideen of Sarkar Gawth Azam Jilani radiallahu anh. No use people going to Baghdad Sharif, but they're sitting with Wahhabis. No use they're going to Baghdad Sharif and they're sitting with Rafzis and Shias. A person may not be able to go there and he is firm in his deen. Gawth Pak's fuyuz and barakat will come right to him. But you keep your iman strong, keep your nisbat strong. दुनिया में भी फायदा, आखिरत में भी फायदा. गौसे आजम आप से फरियाद है, गौसे आजम आप से फरियाद है, जिंदा फिर ये पाक मिल्लत कीजिए. वमा अलैना अल बलाग. अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू.